Diesel engines are powerful, reliable, and built for longevity, but only if you treat them right. The truth is, these engines are regarded as solid, agricultural, and bulletproof to some extent. But there are some things that drivers inadvertently do that bring their diesel engines closer to the point where it's going to die or break down on them. If you drive a diesel, this is the video you can't afford to skip. You're about to discover 5 mistakes so common that they're destroying engines every single day. The hidden problem. The diesel engine has always been regarded as solid, agricultural, and bulletproof to some extent. But there are some things that drivers inadvertently do that bring their diesel engines closer to the point where it's going to die or break down on them. The problem is that your driving style can either make your engine last 500,000 miles or ruin it before it even hits 100,000. Most of these habits seem completely harmless on the surface. You might even think you're being careful with your engine, but the reality is that diesel engines operate differently from gas engines. They need specific conditions to thrive. When those conditions aren't met, expensive problems start building up behind the scenes. Why short trips kill your diesel. Diesel engines are designed to run hot, and they need time to reach full operating temperature to function properly. But if you're constantly making short trips like running a few miles to work, picking up groceries, or dropping kids off at school, your engine might never get hot enough, and that creates problems, big ones. For starters, it leads to carbon buildup in the EGR system, which is responsible for recirculating exhaust gases. Over time, the buildup restricts airflow, reduces performance, and eventually causes engine trouble. That's not all. Short trips also prevent the diesel particle filter, or DPF, from properly regenerating. This means unburnt fuel and soot accumulate in the filter, causing clogs and back pressure. Here's what's really happening. The particulate filter regeneration needs about 600 degrees Celsius. That's about 1,112 degrees Fahrenheit, and that only happens under certain driving conditions. The regeneration process needs about 15 to 20 minutes to fully complete. If you never get this regeneration process kickoff, or you never let it fully complete, that's going to lead to big problems. Very expensive problems further down the line. And then there's your oil. Your engine oil doesn't warm up. Condensation and unburned fuel can mix with the oil, degrading its ability to protect your engine and decrease wear. Diesel engines, like most engines, are particularly sensitive to cold starts. A lot more wear and tear happens during the cold start, and you can offset a lot of that by driving for longer periods. Bottom line, short trips are a silent killer for diesel engines. If you drive a diesel, try to combine errands and take longer drives to let your engine fully warm up and do its job properly. Which of these short tip scenarios sounds familiar to you? Drop your answer in the comments below. The truth about idling. The second mistake is one that a lot of diesel owners think is harmless or even good for the engine: letting your diesel idle for long periods. After all, trucks idle all the time, right? But the truth is, prolonged idling can do serious damage. Engines are designed to idle, but the idling process is very inefficient. When your diesel engine idles for too long, the fuel doesn't burn efficiently, which leads to carbon buildup on your pistons and injectors, increasing wear and reducing performance. It also causes soot to accumulate in your PDF faster than normal, requiring more frequent regenerations, or worse, forcing expensive replacements. You're dumping a lot more moisture in the oil components in the engine, and that leads to enhanced wear and tear because the oil has now got water vapor collecting in it. But the biggest issue is fuel dilution. At low RPMs, especially during cold idling, fuel can seep past the piston rings and into the engine oil. This thins the oil out, reducing its ability to lubricate and protect engine components. During the idling process, you may get more unburnt fuel going through the engine oil itself. You see a lot of delivery drivers in vans and trucks. They just leave the engine on all day long. The expense of the wear and tear on the starter motor will outweigh the savings that they would make by shutting the engine off. But these engines are hot all day long. They're not doing short journeys, so they get plenty of chance to burn off all those contaminants that have built up in the oil itself. Fuel dilution explained. Now, let's talk about fuel dilution. One of the most misunderstood threats to your diesel engine's longevity. At low RPMs, especially during cold idling, fuel can seep past the piston rings and into engine oil. This thins the oil out, reducing its ability to lubricate and protect engine components. Not good. When your diesel engine idles for too long, the fuel doesn't burn efficiently, and unburned fuel starts mixing with your engine oil. the oil quality will degrade, and the oil will become diluted over time as byproducts of the combustion process and unburned fuel seep through. That's particularly something that's going to happen on cold engines. If you do a lot of cold journeys, the degradation of the oil itself is certainly going to accelerate, and the oil is not going to do as good a job of lubricating the engine. This is why excessive idling is so dangerous. You're literally contaminating your oil with fuel, and contaminated oil can't protect your engine properly. The fuel system in diesel engine operates at extremely high pressures, up to 30,000 psi. When fuel dilution occurs, it compromises the engine lubrication system, but that doesn't mean we can skip servicing. It's important to change the oil regularly. Manufacturers may state 9,000 miles, 12,000 miles, or 12 months, but most drivers who drive very high mileage diesel engines cut those down. They change the oil more frequently, and that is the single biggest thing we can do to prolong the life of our diesel engine. Oil change mistakes drivers make. This brings us to one of the biggest mistakes diesel owners make, following the manufacturer's oil change intervals blindly. Many diesel drivers assume that because these engines are built tough and modern synthetic oils are better, they can go 10,000 to even 15,000 miles between oil changes. And to be fair, that's often what the dealer or manual suggests. But here's the truth. If you care about your diesel engine's long-term health, that's way too long. Diesel engines run hotter, harder, and under more stress than gas engines. Your oil isn't just lubricating moving parts. It's dealing with soot, fuel dilution from idling, and chemical byproducts from emission systems like the EGR and DPF. Over time, these contaminants build up and reduce your oil's ability to protect the engine, even if you're running top-tier synthetic. So, what's a smart oil change interval? Stick to every 5,000 to 7,000 miles, especially if you're towing, doing short trips, idling frequently, or driving in dusty or harsh conditions. That's the sweet spot for keeping your engine clean and well lubricated. Don't wait for your oil to look dirty. With diesel engines, that happens quickly, and it's normal. The problem is that you can't see microscopic wear, acidity, and fuel dilution. Turbo cooling secrets. Here's a mistake that even experienced drivers often overlook: not letting the turbo cool down after a long haul, towing, or a high-speed drive. After hard driving, your turbo is blazing hot. If you shut the engine off immediately, the oil inside the turbo essentially gets cooked. This is called oil coking, and over time, it creates hard carbon deposits that clog oil passages, reduce cooling, and destroy the turbo bearings. Once turbo goes, you're looking at a major repair bill, easily into the thousands. But here's the good news: it's completely avoidable. Just let your engine idle for 30 to 60 seconds after hard driving. This keeps oil flowing through the turbo and lets it cool gradually, preventing coking and protecting the turbo's longevity. Some diesel vehicles have turbo timers for this reason, but even if yours doesn't, a short idle period can make all the difference. This is also connected to another critical mistake: hard acceleration when the engine is still cold. Picture this: you start your diesel, it's been sitting all night, the oil is still cold and thick. Then you jump on the highway and floor it. What happens next isn't good. We need to be particularly sensitive about gear selection too. Diesel engines do operate at lower RPM and produce lots of torque in a very narrow power band because you get so much low RPM torque. Many drivers lug them. They ask too much of the engine by choosing the wrong gear. Bonus tip every diesel owner should know. Here's a bonus tip that's destroying diesel engines across the country: ignoring fuel quality. Diesel fuel isn't all created equal, and using poor quality or contaminated fuel can destroy your engine from the inside out. Poor fuel quality, contaminants in the fuel, or just faulty injectors can significantly disrupt the smooth running of our diesel engine. Today's diesel engines have a precise fuel system with tight tolerances, and even a small amount of contaminated fuel can quickly degrade engine performance. Several contaminants can seep into the fuel, including water, debris, microbes, metal fragments, dirt, diesel, exhaust fluid, gasoline, biofuel, and unapproved fuel additives, which can all cause engine performance issues and even severe damage to the fuel system and engine. If the fuel is not atomizing correctly as it burns, it's producing more soot, and that soot is going to clog up the particulate filter. We'll notice initially with a drop in MPG, it may be producing more soot that might lead to more common regenerations of the particulate filters. These are all signs that something needs to be attended to within our diesel engine, and ignoring that will often cause the problem to accelerate and get bigger over time. Which of these mistakes have you been making? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. Before you leave, make sure to hit that subscribe button.